Hello and welcome to another dive into our Grimm fairy tales. So today the one we'll be discussing is The Blue Light. This tale, as you'll find, has many features reminiscent of Aladdin and his magic lamp from the Arabian Nights, and it was included in the second volume of the Children's and Household Tales in 1815. Now, many features of this tale have probably been ripped apart by different tales, and such a tale is Hans Christian Andersen's The Tinderbox. If you've already read that one, it takes many different bits from this one. So without further ado, we're going to get right on into it with a classic Once Upon a Time. So once upon a time there was a king, and he had a soldier as a servant. But when the soldier grew too old to serve him, the king just sent him away. Cast him out without a buy your leave, pay your money, food, nout. And the poor soldier had no idea how he was expected to survive. He was obviously too old to do work really well, and who would want a servant who had been cast out by a king? And he sadly wandered until dark, and he had come to the edge of a forest. And he thought, what the hell, I'll just wander in there and maybe something will eat me. It's not dramatic at all. Now, as he was walking through this forest, he saw a light in the distance, and he made for it. And on coming to the light, he saw an old cottage just stood in its clearing. Now, a witch owned this cottage, but he thought, what the hell, what have I got to lose? And he went and knocked on the door. And he asked for a night's lodging and a little bit of food and drink. And at first, the witch said, absolutely not. You're not coming in here, pal. And was going to send him on his way, but he looked so pitiful, and he was a soldier. So she finally relented and said, all right, you can spend the night, you can have some food, you can have some drink, but in exchange, I want you to dig over my garden in the morning, because I'm too old to do it, and you need to pay me for my good deeds. The soldier promised, and the next morning, and he went into the garden and dug everywhere. But because he was older, it took longer. In fact, it took all day. And by the evening, he was so tired that he couldn't journey on. So he begged the witch to let him stay one more night. Again, she didn't want to, because she wanted him out of her cottage and just to pick herbs and just boil toads and whatever it is she wanted to do. She just didn't need him in her space. But she finally relented and said, all right, you can stay the night again and have some food and have some drink, but you've got to chop that cartload of logs by the side of the cottage into firewood for me, because I'm too old to do it. And the soldier agreed. But by the evening, because he'd done such a good job, and it had taken him so long, he was again too exhausted to carry on his journey, and asked again if he could stay. Now this is the third night, and to be honest, I'm on her side. I'm getting a bit pissed off with this stranger just rocking up and expecting to spend the night there just because he's done a day's hard work. So in exchange, the witch said, all right, this is the last night you're going to be here. And in exchange for a night's lodging, I need you to go down the well and fetch the blue light that's at the bottom. And the soldier agreed. Now, the next morning, the witch led him to the well, tied a rope around him, and lowered him down to the bottom, where he found the blue light. And he tugged on the rope for her to pull him back up again. She's probably not as weak as she made out. But just as he reached the edge of the well and was going to climb over, the witch reached for the blue light. But sensing her evil intentions, the soldier said, whoa, hang on a minute. You're not getting this until both of my feet are on that ground and I am safe. And at this, the witch threw up her hands and just said, fine, I'm just not dealing with you anymore. Sod you. And she let go of the rope, and he went back down the well, with no hope of getting out. The soldier was now quite sad, and he was sat at the bottom of this well, in the damp and all the mossy rocks. And he thought that his fate was sealed. He was going to starve to death down here. So he reached into his pocket and took out his pipe, which was already half full, and decided to smoke it, have one last pleasure in this life before he ultimately died. So he lit his pipe with the blue light, and as the smoke curled round, there was a spirit of a little man just materialised out of nothing. and said, "Master, what do you command? I must do as you bid." "Sod you 3 wishes, this is just unlimited." Of course, the soldier asked first to be helped out of the well, and the spirit took his hand and led him out of the well, and the spirit took his hand and led him out of the well, and when both of his feet was firmly on the ground and he was far away from the well, he turned to the spirit and told him to go beat the witch to death because she'd left him down the well. And the spirit complied. And after he had complied, he showed the soldier all the gold and treasures and coins and jewellery that the witch had hoarded in her cottage. No wonder she didn't want him there. And the soldier loaded all this in a sack, and as he made to leave, the spirit said, "If you need me again, just light your pipe with the blue light and I shall reappear to do your bidding." Fair enough. And the soldier returned to the city that he had just left, and he purchased a room at the finest inn, had it just furnished to everything that his heart desired, and had a brand new wardrobe made, which you would, full of fine clothes and fur and everything. Now here's where it gets a little bit morally dicey, shall we say. The soldier requests the spirit to come and told him that the king of this city had sent him away and left him to starve even after a lifetime of loyal service. And what he wanted to do was he wanted the spirit to go get the king's daughter, the princess, and bring her here to his room, where she would have to stay the whole night and do whatever he asked of her. She was to do his bidding for the entire night. The spirit was a bit dubious about this and said, "That's a bit dangerous, you know," but the soldier was insistent that the spirit was to do this, and of course the spirit had to. And he went and fetched the sleeping princess and brought her to the soldier and left. And the princess was woken up and she had to do everything the soldier wanted of her. It doesn't go into specifics. Remember, this is for children. Kinda. When dawn came and the cock crowed, the spirit reappeared and took the princess back to her rooms, where she went back to sleep. And when the princess woke up late in the morning, she went to her father and told him of this strange realistic dream that she'd had in the night. But the king was a suspicious savvy fellow, and he told her, yeah, it might be a dream, but then again, it might not. So what I want you to do before you go to bed is put peas in all of your pockets and put a little hole in there. So if you do go gallivanting at night, we can follow the trail of peas and find out where you're going. Which would be a great plan, but the little spirit man was listening and heard all of this. And when evening came and the soldier demanded that the spirit bring the princess to him again because one night wasn't good enough, before he went to go get her, he strewed peas all over the city streets. Every street had peas on it. And so when he went to fetch the princess, the trail of peas that she hopefully was leaving mattered not at all. And once again, the next morning, the princess told her father what had happened the night before. She'd had the same dream, more or less, and of course when they went to go find all the peas, there were so many peas. So the king told her this time to, if she dreamt that she was there at this place again, that she was to take off one of her shoes and hide it somewhere where she was and nobody would know. Now the little spirit man heard this again because he's incredibly nosy. And when the soldier asked for the princess to be brought to him for the third night in a row, he said to him, "You're pushing your luck a bit. I'll bring her, but as soon as I take her back to the castle, you've got to get out of the city as fast as you can, because there's trouble brewing." However, the soldier still insisted that the princess be brought to him for the whole night. And when the little spirit man took her back, he made out of the city. But he didn't go very fast because he was old. So the king's daughter kept one shoe on and hid the other shoe in the soldier's bed. And when she made it back to the castle, the king was waiting for her with a whole troop of soldiers, and immediately they took to searching the city for the princess's shoe. And, of course, it was found in the soldier's room. Now the soldier had already made it out of the city, but he hadn't made it out fast enough. He was followed, he was overtaken, and he was soon caught and thrown into prison, as you would be. To be honest, I don't really know whose side I'm on now. I'm leaning more towards the king's side. Now the soldier was in a cell, he was chained up, he was roped, and contemplating the rest of his life, and due to his frantic flight out of the city, he had left everything behind, including his pipe and the blue light. The two things that you'd think would be high on the list of priorities to remember. Now, he stood sadly at the window of his cell, and he happened to see one of his old comrades go by. So he called out to him and said, "I have a gold piece. Can you do me a favour? Could you go back to my lodging and pick up my little bundle I'd left in my room if the soldiers hadn't taken it?" And the comrade said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do. You know, old time's sake, you seemed like a decent enough guy." Dubious. And he went and got his little bundle and brought it back, and the soldier gave him a gold piece, and he went merrily skipping on his way. Now the soldier immediately lit his pipe with blue light, and the little spirit man appeared, and he said to him, and the little spirit said, "You know, don't fear, just go wherever they take you, do whatever they ask, answer whatever they want, and just remember to always take the pipe and the blue light with you. Don't forget it again." The next day, the soldier was interrogated, tortured, and sentenced to hang for his crimes against the princess. And as he was being led out to the gallows, he yelled up at the king, "As a condemned man, can I have just one last favour in this life?" Now the king was very suspicious and didn't say yes. He asked him, "What favour is this going to be?" And the soldier replied that he just wanted to be able to smoke his pipe on the way up the gallows steps. And the king answered, "You can smoke 3 pipes for all I care if it'll speed up proceedings. I just want to see you dangle, mate." So the soldier lit the pipe with the blue light, and the little spirit man appeared. And the soldier shouted that the spirit man was to beat everybody there to death and tear the king into 3 pieces. The little spirit nodded, and he began to beat people all around him to death. So screams and blood and bits were filling the air. The king fell to his knees in front of the soldier and pleaded and begged for his life. And to save his life and his own skin, he gave the soldier his kingdom. And not only that, he gave the soldier his daughter, the princess, for his wife. As I said, a very dubious fairy tale. But you can see the elements that the Grimms pulled from Aladdin, the genie and the little spirit man. However, I don't think people were beaten to death in Aladdin. But it's a Grimm tale, you've got to put that dark spin on it somewhere. And if you enjoyed today's tale, please leave me a like, leave me a comment, leave me a subscribe, and always remember to just keep reading.